If you're in the market for a pond filter, particularly a pond pressure filter, then you're not going to want to miss this video. So pressure filters will suit some ponds more than others, and some ponds it just won't suit at all. So this video, we're going to touch on both sides to see which situation suits the pressure filter best. We're going to go through the positives, but there's one main problem that all pond pressure filters have, and I'm going to share that with you. So there are many different filters on the market. This is a general video that's aimed at most of the different types of pressure filters that you can buy today. So when we first started in the industry, we, like most people, would go by the manufacturer's guidelines. But through the years, and also from our own customers' feedback, we found a better way of doing it. We've actually generated our own system, which works a lot better, and we're going to share that with you later. So if you want to save some money and you want to make some good decisions on your pond, whether it's equipment or just the pond in general, then subscribe to our channel. I have a pressure filter over here. So this is one that we removed from a pond not that long ago. Customer was just decommissioning it, nothing wrong with the filter at all. Just wanted to have one in the flesh. So if you didn't know what a pressure filter was, then there it is. So before buying any pond filter, there are a few key factors, very important factors that you need to understand. Things that make a big difference. So obviously pond size, fish stock, how many fish you're going to have, where is the pond positioned, is it under a tree, is it in full sunshine, is it a ground level pond, is it raised up, and also it hugely depends on what's in the pond before you go and put a filter system on. Now, as I said before, we've got our own way of doing it, which is probably a little bit better than the manufacturer's in our opinion. It seems to work very well, and I'll show you that at the end of the video. Okay, so the reason why pond pressure filters are so popular is because they're a sealed unit. Now what does that mean? So because it's sealed, it can pretty much be positioned anywhere you like. Whether you've got a waterfall up here and the pond level's down here, you can have the filter system below the water level, outside the pond, and also below the height of the waterfall. So that means you can pump from the pond into the filter system, wherever you want it to be, then it can go upwards towards the waterfall. Whereas if you had a box style filter, as they're like gravity based on the return, that would have to be above the waterfall, or if you didn't have a waterfall, it has to be above the pond level. So that makes things quite attractive to most people, because first of all, it means you can literally put them anywhere you want. And also what makes them even more attractive is that you can actually part bury this filter all the way up until the ceiling ring. So all you have sticking out of the ground is this little bit here, which makes it a lot more appealing when it comes to trying to hide your filter system. The other positive, this is actually a negative, which I'm going to get to in a minute, but bear with me. So the size of the filter system is a massive positive because it's so small. So again, when it comes to installing, you can squeeze them into really small spaces and hide them out the way. Another positive is pretty much the design. So the UV built into the top, so it's neatly out the way. It just makes things a little bit easier to sort of work with and install as well. So another feature of most pond pressure filters that makes it a little bit more attractive to people is the backwash facility. This particular filter, you can backwash by turning this valve to waste, pulling up and down on this handle, and then it squeezes out all the foams, then all the dirty water and rubbish gets sent to the waste, and then switch that back on and the pond starts filtering again. So there may be a few other positives out there. These are just a few that we thought were worth mentioning. Okay, so the main problem in our opinion is just the size of these filter systems. I know I mentioned before that it's a positive, but it is when it comes to installing and putting somewhere easy out of the way. But the size of the system, they are just too small to filter the amount of water that they say that it will filter. The size of them will massively limit the amount of debris and dirt it can catch, because let's face it, that's all the filter is. It's a unit that has a media inside which dirty water goes through and clean water goes back out the other side, and it's not magic. Eventually it will just block up. So the bigger the filter, the less it blocks. That's as pretty simple as it gets. If you have a huge filter on a small pond, it's going to block a lot less because there's not as much dirt going in. Swap that around. If you have a small filter on a big pond, the amount of dirt that's in the water, just from windy days, the sunshine, the algae, fish waste, it doesn't take long to block the filter up. So unfortunately, pressure filters have always been overrated for the amount of water that they say that they can handle. Whereas a box filter in particular is a much bigger unit. So as I said before, the bigger the unit, the more water it can actually filter. So in our opinion, all manufacturers are a little bit guilty of this. They all tend to overrate the amount of water that the filter can actually handle. But the difference with the box filter over the pressure filter, you can just see for yourself, the size difference is huge. So when buying a filter system, take the recommendations that they say with a pinch of salt. So take this model for example. This particular one is rated for a pond up to 8,000 litres. Now this is across the board, majority of pressure filters this sort of size are rated for more or less the same amount of water. But it's not until you read the small print, this particular one will do an 8,000 litre pond, but if you have any fish in it, it will go down to about 6,000, and then again if you have any koi carp in it in particular, it will drop down to another 3,000 litres. So the only type of pond that this filter would actually cater for that would do 8,000 litres if it was indoors with no sunshine, no fish or no debris, which to me is a bit strange that they market it for an 8,000 litre pond when, let's face it, who has a pond indoors with nothing in it? Or if you look at it this way, if you had an outside pool, say a small swimming pool of 8,000 litres, it probably could filter that if it was full of chlorine. So the only way to keep on top of all the debris that goes in the filter, if you match it up as they recommend, you will literally have to clean this filter out maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Although it shouldn't take long to do, people being people, it's one of those jobs that tend to put right at the back of the list. So strangely enough, when it comes to aquariums, I'd 100% agree with the filter manufacturers. They seem to have nailed it on the head when it comes to recommending filter sizes for the amount of water present. So if you've ever kept fish in an aquarium, a large external filter is usually the filter to go for. If you look at the ratio of size compared to an aquarium filter compared to a pond filter, they are massively different. In fact, some of the aquarium filters are almost the same size as this one. So take a look at this one for instance. This is an aquarium filter which is almost the same size as the one I've got next to me. It's 40 by 40 by 53 centimeters, which is massive. And the best thing is they actually rate that for 1,000 litres. So here are our own recommendations based on our experience through the years. So the first thing you need to do is see if you can have a box filter. Don't worry about a pressure filter system to start off with. See if you can get a box filter in there. See if you can find space where you can make it work for your pond. But not just any box filter. Ideally a box filter that you can backwash without having to take anything out. Also a waste drain so you can just get rid of all the rubbish. And also the biggest one you can afford. So if a box filter just won't suit your pond, these are our recommendations in regards to going for a pressure system instead. So when we recommend for pressure filter systems, we use a divided by 2 ratio, and that is this. So on the shelf there's a filter system that will cater for 10,000 litres. So the 10,000, just ignore that completely. Divide it by 2 to get 5,000, and that's probably your indoor pond that we spoke about before. Ignore that as well, and divide that again by 2. So that will then give you 2,500 litres for a goldfish pond, and if you wanted to keep a few koi, divide that again by 2, so 1,250 litre pond with a few koi, not go mad with food. So for pond size, we recommend a pressure filter for only small to medium sized ponds. If you have a large pond, proceed with caution. Again, explore, 100% explore having a larger box filter installed instead. So if you have a small pond, buy the biggest pressure filter system you can afford. You don't always have to have a big pump that comes with it. You can reduce the pump flow rate. So you have a big filter, smaller pump, and that will work perfectly. So if the pond is in good shape, there's not a lot of debris in there, you can see the bottom, you can clearly see what's down there, all the pond's been cleaned out within the last 6 months, I say 100% explore the pressure filter range as long as it's the right size for that pond. If on the other hand, the pond's messy and full of rubbish, this goes for all pond filters. You're probably going to have that pond cleaned out. It will just block up no matter what. So in regards to fish, if you're keeping small fish and low fish stocks and you're not going mad with food, pressure filter systems are absolutely fine. If you wanted to have koi and you had larger pressure filters, it will work, but I wouldn't recommend trying to overfeed them to fatten them up. Just keep everything as low as possible, keep the waste levels down, and the pressure filter system should work okay. So if you want to have more koi, larger koi, and you want to feed them more, don't go for a pressure filter system, explore the box range instead. So in a nutshell, if you match everything up properly, you're not going mad with the fish stocks, you're not going mad with the food, you're doing your regular maintenance and everything's matched up to the correct size pond, you're not going to have a problem and it should work out fine. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, click on the like button. If you haven't already, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.